I just created my first digital product. It's a sample pack called Tape Toys. Today's episode, I'm going to go over the year-long process of creating the sample pack when it came to recording the samples, coming up with the idea and the theme of it, and everything that I could possibly think of. So although the sample pack is meant for R&B, rap, and lo-fi, I did stress test the hell out of it to make sure that it works for gent, THALL, deathcore, all of the metalcores, all the different kinds of genres. I tried to make sure that it worked for anybody that wanted to use it. So sample packs always start with one thing, and that's the idea or the theme. So this actually goes back about 3 years ago. I got really into using these cassette recorders, recording loops, drums, and whatnot, speeding it. On this specific one, there's a bunch of different speed options. When I first started it, I was actually taking my synths and plugging it directly into it, so they were getting really heavily distorted. If I was to do that nowadays, I would actually record my whatever synth layer or sample into Ableton, edit it, and then send it back to the tape cassette recorder. A lot of the samples I recorded 3 years ago on this are actually in the sample pack. I've just reworked them and made them sound a lot better. So a year after recording all of these samples onto here, I actually found this at a thrift store. It all started with this idea of using that tape cassette recorder and getting like vintage kind of sounds, but then I started playing with this. As you can hear, it doesn't sound good at all. So I actually made one sample pack of just sampling it and trying to make it sound, trying to clean it up a little, but not changing the sounds. It just wasn't it. It just didn't sound good. So about a year later, I kind of gave up on that, and actually Wave Alchemy, I've worked with them before on different sample packs, but they started creating new sample packs for their Trias plugin. And I was hired to make some drum samples for them, so I actually learned everything I know about sampling through them. You know, along the way, I was just like, I kind of want to start doing this again, and at that time, Matt reached out to me and he said, hey, we're gonna start doing like artist packs, so if you've ever been interested in doing that. I obviously started with what I had, which was this Yamaha little thing, and then I got hooked on it. I actually ran it through my Warm Audio preamps. They're like a clone of an old Ampeg system, so they actually have a saturator on it, a tape saturator. This is a sine button. It'll cycle through, so I hold a sine. So I was able to record this into Ableton using 3 different gain stages. So clean, a little crunchy, and then tape saturated, just destroyed. I started with that one, and then after that I was like, okay. I found this one on Marketplace, did the exact same thing to it. I just went through, sampled every single hit. I think this one had like basically double the amount of samples, so quite a few to go through. And that's where the whole idea for the pack came from. It started with these tape recorded loops. I started introducing these toy drums. I put them together, and we have Tape Toys. At that point, got really hooked on just going to Value Village all the time and trying to find instruments, and sometimes you get really excited because you find one that looks hilarious and you think this is gonna be sick, and then you get home and you realize the battery section is way too corroded and it doesn't turn on. But I was very fortunate to find 2 different synths actually at the same Value Village, and I brought them home and they worked and they sounded amazing. One of them was actually really delayed, but it actually made it a lot cooler because some of the chords and some of the jabs, like they have an own characteristic to it that like sound like I purposely played it delayed, but it's actually the synth is broken. Finding the cool sounds and doing one shots. So there's tons of one shots. There's a bunch of vocal samples, like doing like some scratching and stuff like that. So I feel like this period of my life I actually learned the most about music because I was really focused on learning new chord progressions every day just to kind of make sure that I wasn't giving you the exact same loop every time. And I spent about 3 months off and on. I had to take a little breaks because I was just like losing my mind, just being like, is this good? And then coming back to it and then be like, okay, this is really good. You know, 3 months off and on of just making all these different melodic measures and kind of different loops and stuff like that. And then once I had everything recorded, it was time to start doing the processing. So as you can see here, we've got our different variations when it comes to the saturation that I was talking about. So down here we have our dry one, which is just making sure that the signal's coming in not too hot or anything. More saturated just by boosting the drive of the actual preamp input. And then turning the tape saturation on and trying to see what that sounds like. Just really reefing it. I'll show you how I roughly processed it. I kept these all on a track, which was sample, and then I kept all of my plugins on here, just tons of plugins ready to go. I love Basement. This is like if I'm trying to get low end information, like let me just loop this snare. Just going little by little, kind of EQing, getting rid of annoying frequencies. dipping out whatever I needed to. Different saturation, different effects. This eventide I love a lot. You can choose to add a lower or a higher octave. I use this a lot on the samples. And then, yeah, just like whatever came to mind, adding some reverbs. And then once I've got something that I thought was really cool, in Ableton it's super easy. It's easy in any DAW nowadays, but I just create a resample track, and basically that's just recording from the master. Whatever you're hearing, it's what it's recording. So I would make sure that I'm hitting a decent level, make sure that I'm not going too loud and clipping it. Each person will have their own standard. I kind of went for about 10 minus 10 LoFIs and just normalized everything at the end. These are all my final tracks down here. So I went through this entire session. This is just one drum session. I also have another session for drums for a different unit that I rented and used. And then with the synths, it's the exact same thing. The only difference being that since there are different melodies and stuff like that and different one-shots, I would experiment a lot more with changing the pitch of things. 280 minutes of different samples and different presets, and these are all the vocal shots that we did. One thing I forgot to mention is that also changing the pitch of the drum samples and everything like that. I'm doing a lot of the same techniques with the synths themselves. As you can see, same kind of thing. I have all these guitar, all these like other tracks with a bunch of different random shit on it. And then with the samples, same thing, just like plugins galore. Whatever I thought would be good would make it there, and then I would just mute it if I wasn't using it, turn it off. Same thing, I really fell in love with this Unison Sound Doctor plugin. It's kind of similar to an RC20. RC20 I think is possibly more usable. This one is just like more gimmicky, but it just really creates like a cool tone. I really like it. These are the original samples that I created and the loops I created using the Sony and recording directly into them. But then, you know, kind of messing around with them a bit, changing the pitch if I thought so. But then if I like the pitch of that, I'd have to actually later go through and change the tempo of it. That way, when somebody buys the pack and wants to use it, they have the actual tempo and the key. So finding out the key was a little bit of an annoying part. Changing the tempo when I changed the pitch was even more annoying. But as you can see, each time I went through, I had to make separate changes. And there's so many options. I actually created 850 samples, from drums to vocals to melodic loops to vinyl scratches and tape scratches, chords, little guitar sounds, Foley like opening and closing, claps, slaps, camera shutters. Then there's the 80 presets as well that come with Trias. If you don't own Trias, check it out, and if it's too much for you, there's a free version. So many different things. And then taking a very bare bones sample like this, and after processing it, ending with something like this. Like I said, I tried to make the pack as metal friendly as possible while still serving the purpose of being an R&B, lo-fi, and kind of vintage sounding pack. And I think I did that. There's one last step that you want to follow when you're creating a sample pack, and I decided to opt out of it for mine, and that is denoising your samples. So Isotope RX creates a really great denoiser, but I was talking to a friend of mine and he said, your samples should be noisy. Like, why are you denoising them? They're tape emulated samples. And they're vinyl emulated samples, and I was like, you're right, like they should be noisy. So they're noisy within reason, but I didn't go completely clean with them like I did for every other sample pack I've done for Wave Alchemy. The original. And then the processed one. And then once you're ready to export it, the real important part is to make sure that there's no gaps at the beginning or at the end of it. The end is okay, but at the beginning especially, you want to make sure that when somebody loads it in it starts right away and you don't have to wait and edit it yourself. From this. So yeah, I've actually been using the sample pack on this channel for about 4 or 5 months. In any of the videos that you've seen, I've added the production, the drum production, and like a lot of the synth production actually with the sample pack only. So I can finally say that Tape Toys is now actually available after the long period of time of me working on it and putting it off for a while just to make sure it was perfect before it went out. So if you're interested in looking for a sample pack for either metal, hip hop, lo-fi, literally anything, I've made sure that it works for everything. It's now available. You can check it out in the link down below. And even if you're not looking for a sample pack, but you're somebody who wants to support the channel, a lot of you have been saying you need to start a Patreon so that we can support you for all the work you're doing. This is absolutely the best way to do it. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see how to get the most out of the sample pack, I just put a video out on Wave Alchemy's channel. You can check it out right here. It's basically just going over how I use it with their Trias plugin, but also just how I would use it myself personally. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.